There's a minister who is front and center on this issue, Janice, making news. What have you got?
Yeah, I want to tell you about what Public Safety Minister Bill Blair said on his way into that cabinet meeting, which started about half an hour ago. Let's listen to this tape, and then I'm going to describe the significance of this in terms of being perhaps the first real movement we've seen in a while in terms of progress on these rail blockades. Take a listen.
No, I haven't said the conditions have been met. I believe the time has come now for those barricades to come down. We have met the condition that those who were on the barricades had said was important to them before they would change their posture. Then that work has been done, and I think quite appropriately, and now it's time to move forward.
So what the conditions are that he's talking about was a request for the RCMP to pull back from the Wet'suwet'en territory. You remember there has been a police presence there now because of a roadblock that happened in a court injunction to stop it, and this was terribly controversial. The Wet'suwet'en people made it clear they did not want RCMP cruisers personnel on their land, and it seems that after a couple days now of conversations between the federal government, the BC government, of course, in charge of sorting out policing with the RCMP as their police force, that a decision has been made. Blair said a letter has been written from the RCMP in BC to the hereditary chiefs saying that they are willing to pull back and to go to a nearby town, Houston, provided that that road remains clear, that you know, this was, he called it a sound operational decision in light of these circumstances. And why it's so important is that when we have been speaking, including one of the hereditary chiefs who spoke to our colleagues on Power and Politics, about what might be necessary in order to kind of get to a point where face-to-face talks with the hereditary chiefs could be possible for this government, they said it was very important to them that the RCMP get out of their territory. This appears to be a move on the RCMP's part towards that. Now, we are trying to get the exact text of this letter that was written. We're chasing that down so we can tell you exactly what words were said, but you heard the minister there. He believes that this would meet that condition that they had set, which could theoretically anyway free up then the possibilities of sorting out this kind of face-to-face discussion we've been speaking about since last weekend, which would presumably involve the federal and provincial ministers responsible for Crown Indigenous relations.
So, I mean, there's also another significant development, I suppose. There are many of these on this front, but Conservatives we know have been criticizing the Liberals, are calling for actions. This is Opposition Day as well. Could this change what we hear, do you think?
Yeah, well, certainly, you know, if there is movement on this file, that will need to be reflected in the debate in the House of Commons today. Every so often, the opposition gets to set the subject. It is the Conservatives' turn to bring forward their motion. I think we've got the text of their motion on a board here. I'll just sum it up. It calls for the House to stand in solidarity with every elected band council on the Coastal GasLink route, the majority of hereditary chiefs and the vast majority of Wet'suwet'en people who support the Coastal GasLink project and condemn the radical activists who are exploiting divisions within the community, holding the Canadian economy hostage, threatening jobs and opportunities in Indigenous communities. I want to zero in, though, on one part of this motion, the bit where they say that the majority of hereditary chiefs support the Coastal GasLink project. We've been trying to fact check this because it kind of caught our eye, because of course we've been reporting that it is the hereditary chiefs who are standing in opposition. Right. And the solidarity protests we've seen in Tyendinaga and other places are in solidarity with the chiefs who oppose the project. We do not believe, based on our fact checking, that what the Conservative motion here says is true about the majority of the hereditary chiefs supporting the project. I put that to the Conservatives, asked them whether they would be altering perhaps the wording of this if it didn't stand up to fact checking. Haven't kind of heard back from them about any kind of a change, but I suspect that may come up as MPs debate this in the House of Commons today. Certainly a lot of strong feelings on both sides. We have seen even Conservative leadership candidates really wanting to focus on these protests being the work of radical activists who are not acting in the best interests of the Wet'suwet'en people themselves. But when it comes to the hereditary chiefs, I think certainly their spokespeople, they they really have been clear about their opposition, which is important to keep remembering, based on kind of historic, kind of outstanding rights and title to this territory that haven't really been resolved with either level of government. And so that's what these talks now that they're hoping they can get back on board are going to need to center on.